Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the last episode of the IMDHA Presenter Series for 2020 in preparation of the Hypno Expo, April 24th and 26th, with pre- and post-conference programs before and after. Who we've been interviewing in this series are the people that will be presenting some of those programs so that you can get an idea of just what's going to be coming up with the Expo. So there we are. The Hypno Expo is April 24th to the 26th, as I said. And we've got a great lineup tonight. We're going to talk to Robert Otto here for a few minutes, and then we're going to speak with Karen Hand about her secret sauce for session success. We're also going to be talking with Peter Blum about TranceSonics. Peter Blum is the sound guy that you all probably know from the crystal bowls and the lovely stuff he does at the Expo if you've been there before. If not, it'll be a lovely opportunity to hear from him about sound healing. So, with all of that said, the man who needs no introduction at all is Robert Otto. And hi, Robert. We're really glad you're here, and it's nice to have you come in and talk to us.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. Karen and Patty, welcome. Well, Michael, you know, in light of the coronavirus outbreak and the president declaring a national emergency, we're putting the safety and wellness of our colleagues first and taking steps naturally to prevent the spread of the virus. So what we're doing is we are erring on the side of caution and making a responsible decision to deliver the Hypno Expo conference just remotely. All of the particulars are not worked out yet, but Michael, we are working diligently behind the scenes to make a smooth and a seamless transition to be able to do that. And I hope everyone does understand that. And you know, there is nothing new, you know, doing this remotely is nothing new to the association. We've been doing virtual conferences for 10 years. I know I've heard a few comments that there are some people who do conferences and they're behind the times, but with your help and everyone's else help over the last 10 years, I think that we're really further advanced on a lot of other things that are going on. I mean, we're here for a decade doing this, for a decade. We have the best sound and IT people in the world that help us on a yearly basis. So I think that we're really further advanced than what a lot of other people think that we really are. Everyone will receive the exact same training with the exact same presenters that they expect with the same great lectures and courses. And we will be updating everyone shortly as to when and how this is going to transpire. But Michael, I would like to remind everyone also that, you know, that when IMDHA was built and founded, it was built on ethics, integrity, and professionalism. And it was also founded to improve the health of our clients and other people. And being founded on those principles, I feel that the best thing that we can do is to stand by our name and to protect the health of others and do this remotely this year. As much as everyone would love to get together, and I know that they do, we feel that this is the best opportunity to stand behind what the organization was founded on. You know, I don't know if you're aware of it, Michael, but I'm a pilot. And in pilot training, we're always taught that when you hit turbulent times, you have to make small corrections and maneuvers until you can get back into the good, smooth air and pick up speed again. And that's exactly what we're doing here, Michael. We have to make small corrections, and we'll maneuver through this. And when we get back into the good, clean air, we'll take off and we'll pick up speed. And we'll have our conference next year in May, and it's going to be May next year. We're going back to our old dates. So it'll be May 2021, Orlando, Florida. And again, everyone can wait and watch for the announcements to come out.
All right. Well, we really appreciate it, Robert. And as you said, it seems at this particular juncture, it seems to be the absolutely right and appropriate thing to do. I mentioned that we just had this weekend event and people are already starting to call in and cancel and, you know, and can't come because or they're uncomfortable or afraid about what might be going on. So,
well, it's not only what could possibly happen at the conference, but it's what could happen to the individuals on their way in.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go home and wait 2 weeks to see if there was an issue after you attended. I just don't feel that that's right. And I don't think that we should put our presenters and our attendees under that kind of pressure.
Not to mention, Robert, we draw international presenters. They come from overseas. And
Yes.
we travel issues that we have going on. Let's get real. They can still present from overseas remotely. That's the beauty of what we do.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
Exactly right.
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, we really appreciate it. And I guess we're looking forward to the way this is going to evolve. It'll unfold in the next week or so, I guess. You should.
We will have announcements out, I'm sure, this week by Tuesday.
Beautiful.
Okay. Michael, thank you so much. You do a fantastic job. Karen does a fantastic job. And you have Patty Scott and Peter Blum on this evening. 2 more fantastic presenters. Really. What a great group.
Before we go into the program, Michael, just let me say I have never been more proud of being a member of this association. I have always loved this association. IACT and IMDHA have always been on the forefront. I have always appreciated the fact that you stream the conference. I've gotten clients from overseas because of that streaming. I love the fact that we're on the forefront. We're not afraid to hypnotize people remotely. We're not afraid to train remotely. We're not afraid of hypnosis and technology. And we believe in flexibility, and look how flexible we can be to still have our conference with everybody involved. I love you. I'm so proud. Thank you.
Well, and you know, Karen, I feel the same way. It's great to have you on board, and Michael. I mean, without people like everyone that we have, this organization would not be what it is. And to me, it's just such it's a pleasant, heartfelt. You have no idea. It's personal. It's just beautiful. It's a great, great, great people. Really, it is. And thank you again so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, what a love fest we have here. So, yeah, you know, and here's the thing, you know, we are hypnotherapists. One of the things, or hypnotists, depending on what state you live in.
Right.
But one of the things that we really know when we are working with clients for change is you never quite know what's going to show up. And when it shows up, what you need to do is to be responsive and to make adjustments so that you can get to where you want to go. Where we want to go is to build our skills, to learn as much as we can learn about hypnosis from one another. And if we're required to make an adjustment to do that, well, then God darn it, that is exactly what we are going to do. So, here we are. All right. Thanks again, Robert.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's great to talk with you.
Okay.
All right. So now Robert was just saying something about Karen Hand, and without people like you, Karen Hand, you know, I wouldn't have a straight man. Oh, I just realized that the implications of that line, and that isn't.
Well, I just have to say, without Robert tonight, I wouldn't either.
So the reason I said that was just to get you lined up for this, because Karen, I've got to tell you something. I don't know if I told you about my cat.
No.
He took off today. I didn't know where he was for the longest time, and finally he came home, and you know what he brought with him?
What?
27 bags of kitty litter.
Smart hoarder cat you've got there.
I guess it was. Well, Karen, one of the things I know about you, love, is that you are a board-certified hypnotist, trainer, an international best-selling author, and a world-class communicator. She was a Chicago radio personality, and her work as a Chicago radio personality. I shouldn't try to read this because I know the deal. As a radio personality, enabled her to really hone her work with language. She's a brilliant user of language in hypnosis, if that's an appropriate title for somebody. She sees clients. She conducts workshops on Zoom. She and I, in fact, have put hypnosis trainings together on Zoom, which we have been doing for a couple of years now. And she's just a great person to work with. Everybody that listens to any of these programs knows you already, Karen. So I just want to remind everybody, she is the author of the best-selling book, Magic Words and Language Patterns, The Hypnotist's Essential Guide to Creating Irresistible Suggestions. And so the irresistible Karen Hand, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Michael, very much. Delighted.
So one of the things before we talk about secret sauce for session success,
Yes.
I also know that you have a 1 hour scheduled in the conference lineup. And the title of that is Success is a Presupposition. So that's 9 o'clock Sunday morning, good church time.
That's right. Well, churches are closed, so everybody can come to this now. But
So what's that about?
it really is how the NLP presuppositions help hypnotists, and how that can help us get a great pre-frame of the clients we're working for and how they're running their human experience. So that's what it's about. We'll talk a lot about flexibility, dealing with what presents, how to be flexible and seeing what's coming on, and we'll talk about how we use those NLP presuppositions, pretty much as they stand, to see our clients and help our clients change. That's the way we start. So they come in a blank slate, we give them that, we know that they're working from a positive intent, and they're always doing the best they can. Those are the kinds of things we'll talk about in that 1 hour.
Lovely. Lovely, lovely.
Thank you.
And then on April 27th, Monday, all day, secret sauce for session success.
Yes.
So some kind of a cooking show for hypnotists?
That's right. If we had actually been in Orlando, we had the kitchen all set aside, and we had pots and we had stoves, and that's not true. We can do this virtually on Zoom just as easily and just as effectively as we could have in the room together. And one of the things you're going to learn in this workshop also is how to do this stuff effectively online. So you can do it in person and you can do it online, and it works just as well. So it's not really a cooking show, but we will be creating the basic recipe, the basic sauce that makes that session a success. You know, you've probably been to restaurants where, the meal was pretty good, but you didn't tell all of your family members about it. You didn't tell everyone you know to go there, try it out, it's great. But you've been places where the sauce was just fantastic, and not only do you return, but you send everybody you know. So this is all about getting that basic recipe, the secret sauce that's going to create that success that people will talk about, and it'll bring you more work.
All right. Well, it's a lovely metaphor, and God knows I'm a sucker.
You are.
So this is wonderful. But so will it contain any actual hypnosis?
Yes, and of course, metaphorically, and we're going to talk to Peter Blum later. He knows all about how metaphor works in hypnosis and storytelling. So yeah, we'll talk about some metaphor and storytelling, and yeah, we're going to talk about some hypnosis too. In this workshop, I'm really going to teach people not really how to hypnotize somebody, because I expect everybody who comes to this will already know that the secret to hypnotizing somebody is to be hypnotic in whatever way happens to work for the person you're working with, right? And that may change depending on the person you're working with. But the way to hypnotize somebody is to be hypnotic. And if you've been taught to be hypnotic with the Element approach, or with the Ericksonian approach, or I don't know, with Silva Mind Control, or NLP or coaching, does it really matter? Hypnosis happens. Every single parent knows how to hypnotize their kids. And if you don't believe that, check out the clients who come to you and they're still operating off a behavior that their mother set up when they were 3 years old. That is some fantastic post-hypnotic suggestion, right? Mm-hmm. And did the mother have any particular training? No, because hypnosis happens. So we're going to get all sorts of things. So hypnotizing somebody, I think, is really the easiest part of all. So we're going to be working with what is hypnotic to start with. I start right there on my website with hypnosis. Right there on the homepage of my website, it says, hypnosis is not magic. Hypnosis is not voodoo. Hypnosis is you do. Come to me and let me help you learn how to do what it is you want to do. And we go with that from the very beginning. So as I'm screening a client into my services, they know from the beginning, I'm not doing it for them. They have to come prepared to do it, to do something. And they have to do something to get something. Jason Linett says it best, and I don't know that he invented this, but he says, and often, there is no change without change. I completely agree. So the client has to change. Now, that's the part of the conditioning in the secret sauce. And with that metaphor of the cooking thing, you know, if you've got the bread rising, that's conditioning the bread for when you're going to do it later. So the screening is kind of the conditioning to make sure that we've got a surface that we can work on. My prospective clients just know that as we talk on the phone and we do that screening, what's going to be expected of them too. More often than not, by the time they come into my office for a session, they're really ready to make the change. One or two have slipped through that have either thought they were ready and they really weren't, but that doesn't happen very often because we're doing this secret work right from the beginning. Whether it takes one session, it's a one session wonder, or I don't know, 42 sessions, they're gonna know. In talk therapy, it could take 42 sessions, right? But we're gonna know what we have to discover first, what we have to know first to create that change, to make the change.
Cool. Now, when you're talking earlier about how people are still responding to suggestions that were given them by their mother when they were, 3 years old or whatever it is, it seems like sometimes what it is about undoing those old trances. Isn't that right?
Well, that's one of the things that we will definitely be talking about is lots of times we are dehypnotizing before we're doing anything else. Before we ever do any hypnotizing, we've got to dehypnotize them from where they are. Humans are meaning-making machines, right? So we're always trying to make meaning of something. And when someone is given a perspective, when they're given a thought, when they take in some kind of suggestion and make meaning of it, sometimes they make excellent meaning of it. Sometimes they make a mistake in the meaning. And we have to really figure out what their limiting beliefs are and help dehypnotize those limiting beliefs even before we go ahead. It's right there for us to see or to hear. What we have to do, one of the secrets in that sauce, is listening. Watching, listening and watching our clients. I worked with a woman this week who was working on motivation. And as she was talking about how she decides to do something or not do something, she will kind of look at it and she'll see, oh, wow, the things that she doesn't get done are like this. And I was curious if she was overwhelmed. Wow, really big. We were talking about what she was visualizing, what she was thinking, what she was talking about. And it was that gesture that really gave a lot of information to put into that secret sauce. So listening and watching are two of the things we're going to fill the pantry with. And I'm going to teach you techniques. I'm actually going to teach you ways to look for and narrow down and ask the right questions in order to get that information so that you'll know exactly where your client is. You'll know what pictures they're making, what sounds they're hearing, whether they're getting a visual input, a kinesthetic input, and how they are running that program. I really work with kind of a cell phone analogy. Back to that metaphor we were talking about, Michael. I use a cell phone analogy of how the mind works or how the human works. And it's just like any other metaphor. It's just like the iceberg metaphor, except it's a little bit more complicated. The cell phone analogy is that we're all born with an operating system. We all get our cell phone and it comes with a fully functioning operating system. And so when we pop out of the birth canal, we pop out with a fully functioning operating system. And from the very beginning, we have a waste management system that works, a sucking system that works, a blinking and a startle system that works. There are lots of systems that work. It's not the same operating system as, say, a cow. A cow comes fully bundled, already bundled with the ability to walk. That's something that we have to add an app on to do or to build up to, right? So our operating systems are different, but we have this operating system, which then I would equate to the unconscious mind. That's our operating system. The subconscious mind would be that part on our cell phone where we add apps. We add behavior apps. And our mother at 3 tells us something. We see a spider on the floor. We go to pet a tarantula because it looks fuzzy and fun. And mom behind us screams, no, that'll kill you. Wow, download that danger app right now. And download and then let it really go and go and go. So it operates and it operates and it operates. And that app that you download right at that point is running in the background all the time. Even if it's not useful anymore, it's still running in the background, and it's going to take bandwidth, and it's going to take battery juice, and it's going to take all sorts of stuff, and it's going to be running. So we're going to work with the clients to find out whether or not that app that they've downloaded is still useful. In our own cell phone, if we download an app that doesn't work very well for us, we've got options. We go in and we hover over it and delete it, or we upgrade it, or, you know, my iPhone, Apple does that for me. They just tell me periodically, sometimes more often than I'd like, but they tell me periodically, hey, this stuff needs to be upgraded. I don't even have to know about it. It just does it on its own, right? But if I've got an app in there that's not, that was useful at one point, back to the NLP presuppositions, was useful in one point, but isn't useful for me anymore, then I have to figure out if I'm going to delete it, download it, or just keep it running back there in the background. We've got some experience with this programming already. Almost everybody that you work with has the experience of putting a phone number in their phone. They have the experience of programming their cell phone. This analogy becomes easy for them to see, and it becomes easy to make easy change because it's just looking at the apps. It's also a dissociation technique because they're not evaluating their own inner workings. They're just evaluating the apps that they downloaded. So these are some of the ways that we work with the ingredients that are in the pantry that go into making the special sauce. Michael, I got to be honest with you, my friend. I made some notes so that I would stay on track and stay within time, and I did what I normally do and got off on a tangent. Have I lost you?
You did fantastic. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of things, if you don't mind me sharing with you. Share is the operant word there, because when you were talking about dehypnotizing clients, I have this great image in my mind from Moonstruck.
Yeah.
Right. You know the scene I'm talking about, right? So he says to her, Nicolas Cage says to her, you know, I think I'm in love with you, or something like that. And she slaps him across the face and just snap out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Stop it.
Hypnotizing technique.
Bob Newhart, right.
And then the next thing that I decided was that I wanted to put my mother in a chair, in my mind, of course.
Yeah, yes.
And insist that she explain to me why it is that she put some of those apps on my cell phone in the first place.
Well, that, by the way, is something that we will talk about in the workshop, perceptual positions. Mm-hmm. Because along with putting together this special sauce, collecting the ingredients that we need for this special sauce to create the success, I am also going to share with you some really tried and true techniques. I teach techniques a little differently. Sometimes I will give you a script for the technique, or I'll give you the concept for the technique. But one of the things we're going to be talking about is just what Michael said, the empty chair technique, or perceptual positions, and how you can so effectively use perceptual positions to help a client make change, to see it from a different perspective. When the mother screamed at the little kid about to pet the tarantula, right, that was a perception. When that perception can change, it can generalize into something different. So as an adult, different decisions can be made. Right, so yeah, that empty chair technique is a wonderful thing that we'll be talking about. Perceptual positions, one of my favorite things to use. I use perceptual positions, by the way, in all kinds of ways. It's just a concept, and we can use it in forgiveness, which is a way that the empty chair technique is often used. We can use it in the inner child work. I love to use perceptual positions in inner child work, not only where you had the adult talk to the little one after a position's been neutralized, but I have been known to take the adult and the inner child off to other locations, off to a street, as an example. I'll say, let's take your little child on a walk, and let's put that little you on one side of a street and the adult you on another side of the street. Now make that street in any way that you want. Tell me what it's all about. And they'll describe the side of the street that the child's walking on, and they'll describe the side of the street they're walking on. And then I'll have them look at each other. Now you've grown up, look at that little one across the street over there all by themselves. Tell me what you see, what you're thinking, what you see when you look at that little one. And have the little one do the same thing. Look over there at that grown-up. What do you see? And from those two perceptual positions, the person we're working with gets brand new perceptions of themselves. brand new perceptions of how they made why they downloaded that app that they downloaded when they were 3, and why they did that for a very positive purpose. And what are we going to do now? Delete the app, change the app, upgrade the app? What are we going to do with it? But that using that kind of perceptual position is a great way of helping a client make those kinds of changes. It's all part of the special sauce.
Nice. Well, and of course, through my ears at least, I hear a lot of NLP words, right? I hear perceptual positions and
right,
and programming, and and the way that you're talking about that. Would you say that this really is an NLP seminar?
Here's what I will tell you. When I first became a hypnotist, when I was a baby hypnotist, my first trainer, I didn't know it at the time. I was taking hypnosis training, but my trainer was well heeled in NLP and in Silva mind control and in hypnosis, and taught it all as an integrative system. So it's almost hard for me to separate them out and say this is this and this is this, because I just think it's all the same. I think self-hypnosis and hypnosis on purpose are the same thing with different perspectives, with a little bit of a different perspective. I think hypnosis on purpose when you're out doing something is different than hypnosis when someone comes to your office and sits down in your office and says, fix me or change me, or whatever their perception about that might be. But I think that it's all, I think it's all very much the same. So, okay, see if I can answer that question. In this workshop, yes, there will be NLP techniques. Yes, there will be hypnosis techniques. Yes, there will be coaching techniques. Yes, there will be Silva mind control techniques. I share this with all of my certification students. One of my favorite YouTube videos, and I can't think of her name. Somebody on here may know her name. The Silva mind control lady. I think she's the daughter maybe of Jose Silva, but she's got this lovely, lovely, lovely short video on pain control where she talks about, this isn't new. We can work with the mind on pain control. Every mother does it. When your child falls and skins their knee, you walk up to them and you say, oh my, let mommy kiss it and make it better. Oh, now don't you feel better? Yes, go off and do what you're doing. And everybody knows that bacitracin would be the better thing from that skin than mama's kiss, but it works every time because mama instinctively knows how to hypnotize her child to feel better, right? So we're working on, it's just the most natural thing that we do. It's the most natural thing we do all the time. And sometimes it's done on purpose and sometimes it's not. When mama kisses your knee and makes it feel better and you go off, that's kind of accidental hypnosis. Mama changed your belief and you took it. It's a little different when somebody walks into your office and says, do me. There's a different level of expectation. And that's just something that we have to know as hypnotists, that hypnosis is just as easy. Giving suggestions is just as easy. Making that belief change is just as easy. The dynamic is different because now you're dancing. And now it always has to be a dance. And now you have to keep it fluid. And now you have to keep it moving. Now it's a dance. So it's not accidental. It's not on purpose. It's not just going to kind of get them. They're waiting for something, expecting something. That's good and that's bad, right? And you, the hypnotist, have to monitor that dance. That is our job, is to monitor that dance. Yeah. I have students who come to me sometimes first wanting to do magic, wanting to be wizards. That got me confused with Mike Mandel. He does wizard school. I don't teach wizards. I teach real people how to work with real people using hypnosis and wonderful techniques, right? Not be the answer man, not be the wizard, but be the dance master. Be the person who's helping that client excel in their skill set and get better, do it better, dance better, make the steps better. It's always a dance and a feedback loop.
There's something lovely that you often have talked about, and we talked a little bit about it in the sort of pre-show. Some folks were here for, and the implication of it all basically is just how absolutely natural trance is. That hypnosis is happening, and now it's a question of, since it's happening, we might as well do it in a way that's useful and helpful, and catch the wave.
That's right. That's right. And it's not always being done in a way that's useful and helpful. Used car salesmen use hypnosis too, and not always to your best interest, sometimes to their best interest, right? But yeah, that's what we should do, is do it to our clients' best interest.
Well, I wonder what you're going to say about this, just because I know you're so great with metaphors, and I'm a little curious about it. You know, I am a 6-day-a-week plant-based.
Yes.
So is this a special sauce vegan?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We're gonna load your pantry with things like laughter. Is that vegan?
I think it is. Yeah.
With curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah.
With looking at your client and seeing them at their best, looking at them with unconditional love.
Except when cows do it, that's vegan. Yeah.
With what?
Except when cows do it, that's vegan.
Well, you know,
big eyes.
I have always kind of kicked myself. I'm going to share this with you now. I've always kind of kicked myself that I didn't go into hypnosis for animals. Because I live on the north side of Chicago by a very wealthy suburb, and I know they will pay tons of money for all sorts of things for their animals. So I think it would be a quick way to get rich. I don't think it would be terribly ethical, but I think it would be, because I'm not an animal intuitive. But I'm just saying, I've always thought, hey, there would be a way to go there. I could do it with cows. There is actually a little ranch that has some cows close to me. Maybe I'll give that a try, Michael.
Cool.
If this hypnosis thing doesn't work out.
Just in case it doesn't, yeah. Listen, you know, we're having a great time talking with you. We still have another 10 minutes, to go. Maybe you can just tell us a little bit more about some of the things that will happen in the workshop itself.
Absolutely. We can talk about all sorts of things that will happen in the workshop. One of the things that we will go over is a thing that I call the hypnotist tracking form, where it helps you put together your ingredients. By the way, the secret sauce really is a combination of belief, outcome, and leverage, which create lasting change. And I'm going to tell you how to create those things into the sauce that then you add anything you know to. So this isn't the way that you help somebody with lasting change. This is a way to put all of the ingredients you need for lasting change together into an element. So some of the things we'll talk about are some of my favorite go-to techniques. I like perceptual positions. I like regression to resources. And I'll teach you those things. There are lots of techniques. I've got a great fallback metaphor that I use a lot, the fork in the road metaphor, when you need a little bit of aversion. So we're going to be talking about that and how to effectively use that. I use that, you know, the aversion technique in the fork in the road can be really dark, or it can be really helpful. I had here the secret sauce formula, really: belief, outcome, and leverage. Okay, so I had a client who wanted to quit smoking a couple of weeks ago, and he didn't really want to quit smoking, but he felt he should quit smoking. And this guy is in his late 50s. His father died at 66 of lung cancer, and this guy was really feeling like if he didn't really get a handle on this, that he was going to have the same fate. And while I don't like to rub my clients' noses in it, I like to have them make a change. And the leverage he handed me on a silver platter was his fear of dying at the same age his father did, which was less than 10 years away. So I took him down to the fork in the road. You're going to make a decision today. And let's go down that dark road of doing the same old without ever making any change at all and see how it goes. We'll do it really easily. I'll count from 1 to 3 and we'll go down 1 year down that road of doing the same old. Then we'll go down 5 years, and then 10 years. We got down from 5 years, we got to 10 years. Now this guy his dad was 66, this guy's his late 50s, so he was less than 10 years away from death day. So as I said, now I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and when we get there, I'll have to ask you a really important question. Do you make it? I'll count from 1 to 3 and we'll find out. 1, 2, 3. Look in the mirror there. Are you there? Did you make it? What's happening? Tears started streaming. Now that sounds dark, does it not? He came back, we went up the high road, and he was laughing when we got up to 10-year point, where he was there with his family and everybody around celebrating his birthday. And tears rolled down again, and when he came out, he said, oh my God, that dark road was ugly. I didn't make it. But here, my whole family was here. I had a cake, yada, yada, yada. And this is, I think we're on week 4 or 5. I'm not sure. He hasn't had even a thought, he says, of a cigarette since. So it might have seemed cruel and evil, but he gave me that piece of the sauce that I needed. He gave me the leverage point to help him change his belief and get over the hump.
So this is the kind of sauce that you need to eat with a fork.
It's a thick sauce sometimes. Sometimes it's a thick sauce. Sometimes it's like airy. We put a lot of citrus in it, but sometimes it's a thick, you know, his high road was really pretty. I've got a pretty good, nice and airy imagination too. So going up that high road in a year and 5 years and 10 years was pretty good too.
I'm just having so much fun talking with you, Karen. So I think what we need to do is to let people know if anybody has a question for Karen, now would be the time to ask it. And there's a couple ways to do that. You can open up your microphone. Down in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see a little microphone that has a line through it. And if you just click on it, it'll open up your microphone so you can just shout it out if you like. Or you can write something in the chat room. The chat room you can open if you haven't already. It's just down there at the bottom of the screen underneath my chin. Or you could even just put a question mark in the chat room. We'll know you have a question, and then we'll open up your microphone for you, and you can ask it. So either of those things will work. But in the meantime, we're gonna keep going on here. And,
yeah. While we're waiting on that, Michael, I didn't fully answer your question. You said, what else will we be doing? You will get this handout. I didn't bring it up on a shared screen, but I call it my hypnotist tracking form, where we will really look at a way of using that visual auditory kinesthetic piece, excuse me, that you will pick up from your clients. We'll talk about direct and inferred clients and how to notice the difference. We'll talk about their strategy system, how to know if they're toward a goal or moving away from pain, how to know if they need to hear something once or several times before it sinks in, which gives you great information about how to construct your hypnosis. If they can hear something once and go with it, then okay, you don't have to repeat a lot of suggestions. But if they need to hear something or do something over and over, the old Jerry Kine direct drive suggestion, I am a non-smoker and I'll be a non-smoker for the rest of my life 15 times in a row, might work for them. What I'm saying is we're going to get all of this information out of the clients so that we'll know exactly what to put in our sauce to create the success for that client that's in there every single time.
Nice. Customized sauce. So is this for anybody or new hypnotists, old hypnotists? What do they need to have some background?
As long as they know how to hypnotize somebody, I would say it's for everybody. So yes, you can bring your mother if you want. It is for anybody who already knows how to hypnotize somebody. Now we're going to talk about how to do this on purpose.
Karen, you know I can't bring my mother.
What?
You know I can't bring my mother. She's quarantined.
No, but it's going to be on Zoom, so she can come. All you have to do is have your sister set her up, and she can be there.
I could virtually bring my mother.
That's exactly right. Everybody can. Maybe that's what we do, is we all bring our
I was going to say, isn't that what we're all up to in the first place?
The best part about this is, you know, for the last few days, I've been thinking, okay, now what am I going to say? Okay, if we are able to get together, yes, we're all going to be there. We're going to buck up. And now what I get to say is this event is happening April 27th. It is happening on Zoom. We can all get together and you will not be cheated out of anything by being virtual. I had somebody ask me the other day, but your energy is so infectious. I think my energy is just as infectious online. I think it works just as well. And I think people are even more easily hypnotized by looking at the screen because they do it every day. They sit down, they turn on the news or they turn on their favorite program and they go into a trance. They already know how to do it instantly and automatically.
I'm sorry. Did you say something to me?
And some people are easier than others. Michael Watson, before we end my segment, I would be remiss if I didn't say that this is all made available to me because of you. I met you a few years ago and we hit it off, and it was one of the luckiest days of my entire life. But because I know you, Michael, I have most of my business for the last year and a half has already been online via Zoom with clients all over the world, thanks to you and the virtual hypnotist that I took for you, I believe, in your very first session of doing it. And it increased my business exponentially at a virus style rate. I mean, it was really great. It just built and built and built really quickly. It caught on. It was quite infectious. But it's all because of you, Michael. And because of you, we train hypnotists online. I just certified 3 new hypnotists in a wonderful little boutique training this last year in 3 different states, because we were able to get together and we were able to learn also on Zoom. Thank you, Michael Watson, for evolving hypnosis to the point where we can be flexible enough to take a scheduled brick and mortar conference and in a heartbeat, turn it around so that we can all still get together and in a state of isolation, still have all of this camaraderie. I say it's all because of you, Michael. I blame Michael Watson. I love you for it.
Gosh, thank you so much. That's just sweet, sweet of you. And I'll tell you what, the virtual chapter wouldn't be what it is, and the things that we're doing if it wasn't for the contribution that you bring to it, and the motivation and the energy that you have added to it. So it comes right back after you, sister.
I appreciate that. I wasn't fishing at all for any kind of compliment. I just wanted to say that this is all made possible because of you.
Yeah, Patty Scott says here in the chat room that this is the best kind of infection.
Yes. Yes.
Let's catch some of that. All right. Well, maybe one more minute or so if anybody's got anything, or if you've got something you'd like to make sure that people have to take home with them.
I closed it out. I opened something recently with this, but it's my new favorite technique. So in case you missed it the last time, I want to share it with you. It's very short. I'll make it very quick, okay? If you have any stress over what's going on about this virus, this is the quickest way I know to release stress. Do it with me. For just real quickly, on a scale of 1 to 10, think about your stress over this virus or anything else in your life. If your stress is from a 1 to 5, you only need 1 hand for this technique. But if your stress is from a 5 to a 10, you're going to need 2 hands. You got your number? Everybody know? Okay, you ready? Put up 1 hand or 2, wherever your stress level is. Put it up just like this so I can see it. I'm watching in gallery view, so put it up good like that. Okay, face your palms toward you. Good, good. And now, curl your thumb and finger into an OK sign. Look at it. Both hands, if you've got 2-handed stress, keep your palms facing you. Now take your little finger and roll it down into your palm. And take your ring finger and roll it into your palm, letting all your remaining stress release out of that remaining digit. Just let it all go now. And as soon as you laugh, the stress escapes. That is it. Thank you, Nancy, very much. Yes, it is the laughter that allows you to release the stress. Use that as often as you want to. And the next time somebody cuts you off in traffic and you give them the bird, laugh. Because you'll realize that you've just released some incredible stress. Let it go.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Karen. It's lovely, lovely to talk to you. And now here's the cool thing. Yeah, I notice you can see everybody sort of giving a little applause here.
Thank you.
And the interesting thing is, because here you are on the broadcast, and now I'm afraid that you have to change hats.
I can do that.
You have a hat.
Do that.
because you know, Karen is, after all, the co-host on this program, and so she got the easy job just in the last few minutes while I did all the hard heavy lifting. But now I'm going to give some of the. There you go. Yeah, you can even receive signals from other planets if you do that with tinfoil.
That's right. What I want to do is take this time. It's my great honor to present to you Peter Blum. Peter's had a full-time practice in hypnosis for 30 years, believe it. I don't know how. He must have started when he was 2, right? He's a pioneer in the field of sound healing. He's an ordained interfaith minister. His teachers have included Dr. Ann Linden, Dr. Steve Carter, Dr. Ernest Rossi, Beautiful Painted Arrow, and Dr. Louis Mel Madrona. He was awarded Hypnotist of the Year in 2015 by IACT, and in 2018 was recognized as a Life Fellow in Hypnotherapy by IMDHA. So it is really an honor to have Peter with us tonight. And I've got to point out, you know, we always save the best for last. Peter Blum.
And he is the very last in this series, so he must be there for the very best. So, hi, Peter. It's great that you're here. And one of the things that I noticed in your bio, I mean, we're so happy to have you. And one of the things that I noticed in your bio, and this will be meaningful to those to whom it is meaningful at least, is that your teachers have included N.A. Linden, and she is the beginning, of the whole NLP certification trainings stuff in New York. So I didn't realize that until I heard it today.
Dropping a few names, you know.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Yeah.
So anyway, thank you for having me here. I was thinking about, I can't possibly talk as fast as Karen. I'm going to try to. But, you know, my first teacher, the fellow, and I'm sorry, I omitted him from the official biography, but a fellow named Richard Zarrow. And Richard had trained with John Grinder. You and I have talked about that, Michael, that we kind of got, you know, one generation. We were very lucky to have, you know, second generation, one step away from. And so I got a lot of NLP in my original hypnosis training. He also, just like your teacher, Karen, didn't always differentiate. He didn't tell me what was what. He was just downloading stuff. And I had an unusually fortunate situation where I was in his office for a year training and doing a mentoring internship while I was managing his office. So a lot of times there were official sessions of training, but often it was just, you know, we'd be talking and he'd be telling me or showing me something. And later on I would do this and somebody who was trained in NLP would say, oh, that's a 6-step reframe. And I was like, okay, I don't know. It was never identified that way for me. But after I had been doing training with Richard for a year or two, I'm in New York State. And so the New York Training Institute for NLP is only 2 hours away in New York City, or it was. And that was largely run by Annie Linden and another fellow named Steve Goldstone. And I was fascinated with I wanted to get more. And so I signed up for, I went down for a couple of weekends, and then they had a 10-day residential training out on Cape Cod, and it sounded fabulous. And Richard was teaching me a technique at the time that he called future shaping. And he said, you know, this is a process, and he was way ahead of the curve. This is what, like 20 years, 15 years later came out as the law of attraction or the law of you know, of manifestation or the secret. But Richard had combined a lot of stuff, and he was teaching a step-by-step technique that he called future shaping or holographic hypnosis. And he said, through this, you can put yourself in trance and learn to visualize and summon to you or tune yourself into the best possible future. That there are many multiple, you know, quantum physics, many possible futures out there. And you can, through the strength of visualization and connecting your personal unconscious to the collective unconscious, you can kind of find that one. And so I had great faith in this. And I was reading about this training out on at Cape Cod, and it was in the summer, and I was visualizing it, and it got closer and closer, and I didn't have it was very expensive at that time for me. I didn't have the money to do it. And I thought, well, I guess, you know, that didn't work. As it turned out, because I didn't go to that training, Richard was invited to go out to Las Vegas and address the Panasonic sales managers. And it was a big deal, and he invited me to come along as his assistant. Now, had I gone to that training that summer, I would not have been able to do that. So that turned out well. And then I sort of dismissed it and let go of it. And they did this every summer. So the following year, I got the notices again. And the following year, I was actually in practice and was making better money. And it was no problem to send off my money for reservation for that. And I attended it. And that's where I was exposed mostly to Annie Linden and Paul Carter. But often when I work with clients, I teach them what I learned from Richard, which is a very powerful technique. And you draw a triangle that we call the Zen triangle. And at one corner, it says, nice if it happens. At the second corner, it says, nice if it doesn't happen. And up at the top, it says, expect the unexpected. And so this is a way of getting balance that you can't pursue things with desperation or think that it's not working if you didn't get the outcome that you're looking for. Because, you know, for those out there who are theistic and say God never says no, God either says yes, not yet, or I have something better in mind for you. So that's a great way of framing this for people, that you can go after completely, wholeheartedly what you want. And if you don't get that, maybe there's a good reason why not yet, or something better in mind. So anyway, that was just a little story about, you know, how I met Paul Carter, Dr. Paul Carter, and Annie Linden, on all those folks.
And for people that don't know, I might mention you've got a heck of a pedigree, Peter, and you know, Paul Carter is the guy who was first doing hypnosis trainings with Stephen Gilligan as well. So there's the age of Gilligan and Carter that,
Gilligan's Island. I think you visited that, right?
Yeah, I did visit. So listen, before we get into the TranceSonics, I want to just check in, because we tend to overlook these things. Is you have a 1 hour as well on Friday at 4 o'clock called Minding the Funny Bone. Tell us about that.
Okay, well, very briefly, I always tell people that they need to develop their sixth sense, and that's the sense of humor. And that if that's lacking, then they may be suffering from the disease. Michael Elner and I did this. We had worked on this a lot, and many, many years ago, we presented like a 2 or 3 day workshop called Hypnosis, Humor, and Healing. And, you know, what we came up with were two things that we found amongst a vast majority of our clients: that they suffered from a disease of seriosity, and that they also suffered, many of them, from a fun deficiency. So bringing that in, and I'm not telling people to make light of or laugh at your clients. Of course, that would be disrespectful and would trivialize what to them are important problems. But just somehow or other, even Erickson, I have a quote of his that I use where he said, you need to teach your clients to laugh off their sorrows and enjoy their life, and forget about the past and look forward to the future, and above all, put humor in what you do. So he, you know, for many of us who practice in that field, the great inspiration, and I love that approach, that there's something that we can do to help. Swami Byandananda, who was a friend of mine, and, you know, and he said something years ago that really impressed me. He said, it's not about being funny, it's about seeing funny. So if we can somehow do that ourselves and teach our clients to see the basic ridiculousness, you know, we're apes with clothes on. And we invent, you know, we're taking everything very, very seriously. And we kind of have to, but it's so healing. You did it, Karen, with your little finger exercise. Right?
Yeah.
If I can use that word, the F word, you know, F you. And so that's, you know, not to your problems, to your cockamamie way of thinking of things, to your old apps that were installed, to use your metaphor, on your cell phone. You know, you could kind of see them for what they are, and maybe start laughing at them if you can. The irony of how caught up we all get in this Maya, that's what they called it. And by the way, I want to take this opportunity, because we can't do this. We're told not to do this now, due to the restrictions and the concern of social isolation. But here, at this moment, I can get up real close and personal.
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we can do. And I'm still integrating Robert's message. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to recalibrate what I'm going to present on that. The 1 hour thing is not a problem. That's basically a talk. It's a didactic thing. But the 1 day thing is pretty interactive. And so I'm going to have to see how I can figure out how to share these. Yeah.
Well, this is a perfect time, Peter, to practice that and to play with it, because I know one of the things you do in TranceSonics is talk about the importance of the voice as an instrument. I'm sure we can do that online.
Yes, yes. And, you know, what I was, you probably won't get to, like, just like Karen submitted bullet points and questions, Michael, that you never got to, you probably won't get to the ones that I submitted to you either, because I'm just going to blah, 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 blah. But Richard was, in the NLP world, we identify somebody's primary representational system, and that allows us to communicate better with them. Richard was a high visual, as I suspect you are. Very visual. You used phrases like, you know, when you were, oh, you know, the person on the other side of the street, look at that. What do you see? And those are visual references. And Richard came up with this whole wonderful way of teaching and viewing hypnosis called holographic hypnosis. And it was based on a hologram and a lot of working of imagery in the mind. And I'm a auditory kinesthetic. So it was a stretch for me. And I did the best I could with it. But as time went on and I sort of weaned off of working with him and went my own way, and I thought, what works for me, what is important for me is sound. And, you know, and it's always been an area of fascination and study and mystical, you know, my spiritual, my what they call your sadhana, you know that word in Hindu, sadhana, that's your spiritual work. Sadhana. So some people do, you know, a different kind of sadhana. Mine has always been involved with sound and music. I've always, all my life. And so I thought, well, there must be some connection. And I started working very early. I came across a cassette tape from 1990. From my first year that I presented it at the National Guild, and they recorded it. And this was in 1990, and it was how to use sound and music in your hypnosis practice. So I've been riding that horse for 30 years, you know, and keep looking at ways, how can I share my enthusiasm and my conviction that there is a valid and intimate connection between the sound work and trance, and trance for positive change, for change in behavior and in beliefs and in feelings. And, you know, I looked, of course, I think you came in and sat in for one of my things out in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, and drumming. And I go back a lot. The two of the people that were mentioned in my bio, and I'm so grateful always to my mentors. You know, like you thanked Michael, and I'm thanking all the people who formed me. I would not be who I am if I hadn't been so fortunate to have had great teachers in the fields of hypnosis and NLP, but also in the field of shamanism. And so two of them were this man named Beautiful Painted Arrow, also known as Joseph Real, who was from the Picaris Pueblo and the Southern Ute, two tribes from the Southwest, and my friend and mentor, Dr. Louis Mel Madrona, who's part Cherokee and part Lakota, and is also happens to be a psychiatrist. So from those two, I got a lot of the input of shaman, and Joseph in particular worked a lot with sound. And he taught a system which I still use, even though I, in general, try to stay from getting stuck in too many systems, because there's so many of them out there, and nobody can agree on them. Right? Like people say to me all the time, well, do you have a singing bowl for the heart chakra? And I'm like, whose heart? Which chakra? On what day? You know, I mean, it's not quite like that. People want those kind of systems. So I stay away from them. However, having said that, I do work with this system of using the vowel sounds that Joseph taught us. And it's easy because, as you said, the voice everyone has. And
Right.
It's our first instrument. And when I train hypnotists, I tell them, you really only have two main tools in your work, your mind and your voice. I mean, there may be some slight exceptions, but that's what we work with. And people listen, and we can enchant people with our voice. And, you know, all of us, Michael, Karen, all of us who train, one of the first things we often have to do is dispel this stereotypical idea that many people coming into the field have, that a hypnotist speaks like this, and that's the furthest thing from it. I mean, if you
All
want,
you have to do, Peter, is listen to how mesmerizing you are right now as you're telling this story. You're getting louder and softer and going up and going down. You're not in
right,
a
right. So the voice is
very hypnotic.
Thank you. The voice, and I haven't even got started yet. I am the Omega Man, right? That's the one that comes last. Remember that movie, that terrible movie with Charlton Heston? No. But it is the last letter in the Greek alphabet. And so I feel like I'm the last lap in the relay race. Like, you handed me the baton, and there've been like 12 presenters, and I got to come in strong here because I'm finishing for everybody. I want people to walk away with a.
Peter, I do want you to know, though, that we did use sanitizer on the baton before we hit.
Well, where did you have it, Michael? Oh, never mind.
A dozen people have had it before.
You know, I play tennis. That's one of my great passions. And this past week, one of the tennis clubs said, and please, when you come open a new can of balls, don't use, because often we'll have a can of balls that have been used once. And I'm thinking, well, what have they been doing with those? Blowing their nose? Anyway, but excuse me, I digress. So Joseph worked with sound and with the vowel sounds, and I'm going to share that with people as a personal practice that one can use for opening up the voice, but also for working with principal ideas and moving those sounds through the body so that we actually embody the sounds. Because a lot of people speak from their head, and a true voice. One of my teachers also, who I did not mention, but I will in the workshop, is my dad. My father was an operatic baritone.
Mm.
And when I was like 6, 7 years old, he would take me to lessons with his voice coach. And, a little kid, those things make a big impression on. And he said to my dad, your voice doesn't come from here, it comes from here. Right? So he had my dad standing with his legs slightly bent in what I now recognize as like a Tai Chi posture or something, where you've got your tailbone tucked and you've got the pranic column. You all know about the pranic column, right? There's this resonant tube is just lined up. So when I'm talking to you now, I was slouched over earlier while I was listening to you, but when I'm talking to you now, like when I'm talking with a client, I'm always somewhat aware of my posture because that's going to affect my voice. So that's one of the things that we'll touch on. Another one is I have a mnemonic that I came up with years ago to help hypnotists make the connection between how to use sound and pre-existing understandings that they have about hypnosis. So I'm going to spill all the beans here because, give it away. If people want more, I'll what do they call it? Elaborate in the one day greatly. I'll go into great detail, but the main teaching here that I came up with is FACE, F-A-C-E. And a lot of people who have some musical training say, oh, that's the bass clef. No, it's a different FACE. So the F stands for fixation of attention. And we can use a sound to fixate attention. We can use any sound. By the way, Michael, I just want to show people here this. This is a singing bowl. It's a metal singing bowl from the Himalayas. I don't know if you've come to any of my sound baths, but I don't use crystal bowls. You had mentioned crystal bowls. I just want to
Oh yeah, sorry.
make that clear. I don't use crystal bowls. I use singing bowls. So that's a singing bowl, and I could ask a person, for instance, and there are two ways to play it. I just played it by bonging it here, and you can also go around it like this and make it sing, and that's why they're called singing bowls. And it's an unusual and sustained tone. And I could say to someone, just like you could say, look at my eyes or stare at that spot on the wall, I can say, just continue to follow that sound. Just
Wow.
close your eyes, put all of your attention on that sound and follow it as long as you can. And that, that's a fixation of attention. The A in face stands for anchoring, which is another technique that we learn in NLP, which is, right, the idea of association of one thing with another thing. So I could have a particular piece of music playing in the background. So some of this is, you don't have to do anything except just use music in the background, which many people do anyway. But you could have a particular piece of music playing in the background very softly when the client comes in. I have a couple of different stations, that's what I call them, in my office. They're like the stations of the cross. And I start them out at the kitchen table, which is where I'm sitting now. And that's where we do the pre-talk, and they're filling out a form, and I'm interviewing them. And then at a certain point, I'll say, okay, would you like to, and I'll look over at the chair over there, which is over there, the chair, and I'll say, would you like to go sit in the hypnosis chair now? And okay, so they do that. And as they do that, I can get up and say, I'm going to put some different music on now, if that's okay with you, and put something else on. That's also very soothing, but distinctly different. Now, the second session that they come in, I'll do some chatting with them, not as extensive as in the first session, but I'll just be talking with them. How's it going? How much have you changed already? Those kind of questions that anyway they answer them, they're buying into the fact that there's a presupposition there that they have changed. And then I'll say, so excuse me for a second, I'll get up and put the second music on, and they'll get up and, without my saying anything, go and sit in the chair, because I've anchored that. I've created an association in their mind already with that music for that state. So that's the A. The C stands for confusion, which I can't really talk too much about because it would be too confusing. But it is something that we can do with sound. We can create confusion. I'll talk more about that in the seminar. Again, as I said, it would be too confusing if I tried to explain too much about it now, because I would end up confusing you and myself, and then we'd have to figure out where we were, because we didn't start out there, we started out somewhere else. And by the time we got around to where we had started out again, it would be like T.S. Eliot said.
Peter, we're gonna need Karen to do that snap out of it thing.
Well, actually, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because Elmer, who was a very funny guy, God bless him, may he rest in peace, his spirit still soars, he left us 2 years ago. Elmer and I used to call that slap therapy. We would say, okay, time for slap therapy. But the E, I do circle around and come back. The E in face stands for entrainment, which is a major principle that I work with, explaining and demonstrating, and it works with the tuning forks, which I'll be demonstrating and using. Again, I can't hand them out to students through the screen to try them, but I can show them. And also with the drum, which you had, I think, experienced a little bit of with me, right? That the ancient technique of journeying with a drum is to some extent based on brainwave entrainment through the rhythm of the drum. So those are the 4 principal ideas that are connected with face. What else would you like to know?
Well, first of all, I would like to just tell you something, because it may be interesting for you to know, or useful for you to know, because here we are on Zoom, and you were just letting the bowl sing for us.
Yes.
The sound actually does really reasonably well. And not only that, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to want to wear headphones to that program.
You may, yeah. Well, that's good to hear. And, I'm reframing like crazy here in my mind and say, how can I make this work even better than being live. And one of the things is that I have, and again, I'm going to use the fact that this computer, it can be picked up and moved around, is I have, and I'm going to show people this here, some very, very large, beautiful gongs. This is a triple gong stand that I use at times. And I can't bring those to Florida. I've never been able to.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there are restrictions on weight and size of what I can bring on the plane. So I will be able to use those and demonstrate those in the tele workshop.
Excellent.
Yeah. This is another sound that I will use at times and talk about, is the idea of what's called a drone sound. And drones have been used traditionally, and
Bagpipes.
that's off camera. Can you hear it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. So that's something now that I'll show you. It's called a shruti box. Shruti box. And we can create a dissociation to a certain extent by having that sound, and part of your mind is paying attention to that, and part of your mind is paying attention to the words that I'm using. So I've often wished I had two mouths because then I could do double inductions by myself. Although they do say white man speak with forked tongue. That's
There you go.
the same thing, right?
Yeah. So I've got a question, Peter. If, some hypnotists say that you got to have headphones so it feels like they're right in your head, and you're not using headphones when you're using these machines. It's ambient sound in the room.
Richard, before I started doing these things, Richard Zarrow had early on in late 80s some prototype models of the brain wave machines, the light and sound machines. And I use them to great effect. I use them on myself, and they zone you, and I use them with clients. And for those who don't know about them, they're still around.
Yeah.
And you put on headphones and goggles, and you're sort of in you're in your own world there with your eyes closed, and it's feeding in pulse, light, and sound in the brainwave frequencies, usually primarily alpha and theta, to entrain the brain, which is great. But I always felt like they're there inside their world with the goggles and the headphones, and I'm out here. And I could talk to them, but I like without. Yeah, so yes, in answer to your question, I don't use headphones, although for increased auditory capacity, when people, if they sign up for the workshop, which I'm so sorry, we're going to be in competition, but that's what happens, right? Or maybe not. Maybe it'll be different now that it's all right. People won't have to choose one or t'other, right? Because one of the things that those of us who have presented at pre and post conference workshops at the IMDHA in the past have said, well, with people streaming, they get the streaming of the 1 and 2 hours, but they don't get the streaming of the now that'll be different, right? So that's a whole new world, and that's great. Maybe we'll have access to more people will have access to us.
I think it's going to open up a whole new world for conferences in general, because pre and post can now be done online or in some other venues, some other avenues.
I must admit that I've been avoiding doing a lot online. I've done 1 or 2 sessions with people in Australia or very far away. In general, I like to smell someone. I can't smell you through the screen,
You could ask for pieces of clothing ahead of time as part of your intake.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
There are workarounds for anything, Peter.
Yeah, but this is the world that we are all kicking and screaming, resisting, or gladly embracing, entering into. And so why not? I was not surprise, when Robert made that announcement, I kind of, in the back of my mind, was wondering, is that far enough away? You all got to roll with the punches. I was so psyched. I was invited to go to France to present at a conference in Paris.
Yeah.
In April. The Congrès sur l'histoire de l'origine d'hypnose. I was practicing saying that. And that's not going to happen.
Right.
And my plane ticket bought, my hotel booked, it's maybe in September. So a lot of things are being shuffled and moved around, and the resilience is one of the things that we teach our clients, right? As a survival factor, and to be able to be flexible and resilient, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that happens that we don't plan.
Sure enough.
Right?
Listen, I want to pull you back to your context for a minute, because we need to be a little bit careful as we're describing how exactly this is going to unfold, because we need to wait for the announcements. So
right, we don't know exactly.
We are not officially telling you.
Okay. Exactly. Well, then I take back everything I said.
but I'm interested in this. When you were talking at the beginning, you said something about voice, and everybody has a voice.
Yes.
And I guess it's because there's a little piece of me that's a mismatcher, and it was a useful mismatch. Said, well, not Helen Keller, and I don't mean that as a joke, but I'm serious about it. That in fact there's that. And then it occurred to me though that what we're really talking about, and I hope I'm right about this. I'd love for your comments. Is really resonance. And when you said that you were auditory kinesthetic,
yeah.
I thought, maybe it's that, because what I know is Helen Keller could certainly feel sensation and music, and and a variety of things. So, I'm just thinking that way only because there may be some people on this call that don't really have any understanding or experience with sound healing at all before, or maybe have never even heard the bowls or whatever it is. So,
10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have said absolutely. I am shocked, pleasantly, mostly, but I'm shocked at the proliferation of information about sound healing and the ripple effect. And almost everyone I talk to, I'll mention, I do this, and then say, my cousin took a training in New Jersey, or my friend went to a yoga studio and they had gongs, so it's out there way more than it ever was before. My mission, or mishigas, is that lovely Yiddish word, right? Is I have a foot in both worlds, and I see that the sound healers go to these trainings and they haven't a clue that the people they're working with when they play a bowl or a gong or tuning fork are going into a hypnotic state. They don't have that frame of reference. So I want to teach them, hey, you can enhance this by the language you use, by your setup, by your suggestion, by your position. There's so many ways you can enhance this. And for the hypnotist, I want to say, you're already, doing hypnosis, and you may want to include some of these points of view as well as these tools. So it is something about being comfortable with a drum or tuning forks, but it's not like saying, I'm going to teach you to play the Wurlitzer organ or the trombone. These are very simple instruments that anyone can play. I will sometimes use this little instrument, a kalimba. A kalimba thumb piano, and it has the sweetest sound. Very small sound, and it's tuned to a pentatonic scale, which is the same scale as a lot of nursery rhymes are tuned to. So if I'm playing this in the background while I'm talking to someone, it may have the effect of saying once upon a time and telling them a story, and it may be an anchor for some age regression or early comfort. So there are ways to incorporate things like this in the subtlest ways, right?
Yeah. When was the last time you saw a movie that didn't have a soundtrack?
Soundtrack. Oh, yes. And
Yeah.
people are
Oh my
not
God,
even,
Peter, of course.
people are not even aware because it's sneaking in subliminally, but some of the highest paid people in the industry are the people who compose the soundtracks and choose the background sound.
My husband's an audio guy for sports. Of course,
Yeah.
he'll be off work for the next month or so, but he, you know, directors don't get it. People don't get it that if they don't have a microphone placed on the basket, you're not going to hear the ball go through the hoop.
No.
Right? But we all hear it and assume it's going to happen. You're absolutely right. We assume that that sound is going to be there. But when you add it, oh my God, it adds impact.
Yeah. So there are a lot of ways of doing this. Sometimes, like the version of using the drum that's known for people who do shamanic journeying is a very rapid beat, which works, and I understand why, and it's in training to a theta wavelength. But I'll also pick up a big drum and just do a heart rate, and I can do that very gently and softly, and I don't have to think too much while I'm talking to them. And again, pacing and leading, right? You start out a little bit faster, and as I'm talking to them, I'm slowing it down slightly. And if they're entrained, and entrainment is, I didn't really say what it was, but for those who don't know, entrainment is a principle in physics that say that two objects that are vibrating and close to the same vibration will tend to lockstep. It's also called the frequency following effect. And this is used in neurofeedback and biofeedback and in shamanic journeying and tuning forks. And it's just very prevalent. So it's a key concept to working with sound. And it's about rapport to some extent, right? That if we can think of ourselves as having a certain frequency, right? Maybe it's not something that we can measure, but you sense when an anxious client comes in, they're like, right? They're vibrating very fast. When a depressed client comes in, their vibratory rate is very slow. So you want to see, it's about like if you go to an acupuncturist, they'll say, that the treatment is either about energizing, pacifying, or tonifying, right? So you want to kind of bring them back toward the middle, balance them. So it's a useful prism to go visual for you. It's a useful lens to look at this through. And that's also helpful, right? Is to be able to jump back and forth from the different rep systems. Because if I'm with someone who's visual and I insist on talking to them like a kinesthetic and telling how does that feel, they're going to be like, spit it out already.
Peter, I need to interrupt for a minute to just, we're about 5 minutes away from the end of our session. So if anybody has any questions for Peter, speak now or forever hold your peace. Put them in the chat box or raise your hand, wave your hand around wildly. We can see you, and that'll work. Or open up your microphone and just shout it out.
Or of course, you can wait till April 27th and ask him during his workshop.
Well, that would be an excellent opportunity.
But then you're cheating all the rest of us out of that question. So if you've got one, it would be good to ask it now.
But it will be available, hopefully, afterwards as well.
Peter, one of the things that strikes me is, as you were talking about that, one of the greatest rock bands of all time would be Queen. And Freddie Mercury used to say they did on purpose construct music that involved the audience.
Yes. Yes.
Right? And so their audience could be a part of it. They were in training that audience. That he didn't use those words, but he talked about using that principle.
Yes. And I agree so much. I've quoted you. I don't know if you made it up or you stole it from someone else, but the thing about hypnotizing is you got to be hypnotic, right? Yeah. And Freddie Mercury was charismatic and hypnotic, right? Whether you liked him or not, you couldn't take your eyes off of him.
That's right. That's right.
So what is that? essence, how can we cultivate that? That's a good question, right?
And the fact that Freddie Mercury had it and Joel Osteen has it, and all sorts of different kinds of people. You were talking about we're competing against each other on that Monday. We are not. The people who are who are attracted to my fast talking workshop are entirely different people who were attracted to the soulful Peter Blum. There are plenty of people for both of us. We're not exactly the same crowd.
But you know what? Just before we go, I think it was the first or second year that I met you, Michael. We had that funny situation where they had that big room, and they divided it with curtains, and we were presenting in adjacent rooms, and somehow the PA system got confused so that what I was saying went over the loudspeakers in your room and what you were saying. And we were like, wow, if we'd known this, we really could have rehearsed it and done a great double induction.
Right.
So maybe there'll be some leakage as well, you know, that we can peek into each other's classes somehow with the miracles of technology.
All right. Well, there certainly are a lot of things that we can do, and we're going to get it all figured out. So, ladies and gentlemen, be there because it'll be fantastic. Peter, you talked about something earlier. You said, you know, that there's a difference between doing this and doing it live. I want to remind you all, Peter will be just as live on Monday, the 27th of April, when he does his TranceSonics workshop.
Live. It's Saturday night.
That's right.
And now the hypnotic stylings of Peter Blum. So
my lounge lizard act.
I'm going to put in a bid. I'm going to ask that we could get you to play for us at the banquet as well.
Oh yeah.
I would love that.
Why not?
All right. So
we'll be eating virtual food, and why not have some virtual music?
Yep. So hang on just for a second. I don't want you to go away. Let's just make a couple final announcements here and remind everybody that this is the last Sunday evening in this series. But, you know, Karen and I are still doing our thing, and that means that the virtual chapter, IACT IMDHA virtual chapter, meets on the second Tuesday of the month, April 14th. And who is that guy? Steve Smith.
Steve G. Jones.
Steve
If
Jones.
you don't know Steve G. Jones, just join us, because if I can tease, let me see a show of hands. Anybody who does not know Steve G. Jones, show of hands. Let me just say this to bring you to that event. He's a hypnotist who charges $25,000 a session.
I just saw Nancy go into trance.
Now, would you like to come and find out how a person can charge $25,000 a session? Please join us. Steve G. Jones is amazing. You can look him up between now and then. He's got 5 gazillion recordings online, and discover why he can charge that much and keep a straight face.
And the little trivia is that he also was the one of the Millionaire Bachelor episodes.
Right.
And he and an entourage of his cohorts were on Below Deck, which is one of the reality shows that I watch and enjoy from time to time. Great guy. We're looking forward to having him on the chapter. The video for him tonight from this talk that we've just had with Peter and with Karen will be posted tomorrow on the IACT IMDHA forum, the Mind Matters forum. If you remember, you just log in and get it there. It will also be posted on the virtual chapter YouTube channel. It will also be posted on the virtual chapter Facebook group as a replay. So if you want to hear this all over again, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to do that, it will be available for you tomorrow. Round about noon is what we aim for.
Question on the chat about the date. Someone said, is it the 24th? It's not. It's the 27th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. The 24th through the 26th is the conference weekend, and then the pre and the post conference things are dates just before and after that. As of this writing. So watch your email and stuff, because the schedule will be presented, and I'm sure there may be a few adjustments that need to be made. But as far as I know, that's right. Things are the same dates and times that they were scheduled to be.
Just for hanging with us tonight, you get CEUs, so don't forget to apply for them. You get CEUs from all sorts of organizations. and IACT, IMDH in particular, but you can apply to other organizations and also get CEUs if you were with us live or on the recording.
And there's even a few disorganizations that will give you CEUs for
There
joining.
are a few
And that's
friendly ones.
so now is that time when we do the magic. So are you ready, Peter?
Yes.
Because I know you appreciate sound healing. Because what I'm about to do is I'm about to open up everyone's microphones so that we can all send you and Karen off with love and affection and a great cacophonous chorus of "Here We Are." So good night, Peter.
Good night.
Good night.
Good Peter.
Well, in
Thank
April.
Bye.
The best.
Thank you, Michael.
Yep.
Karen.
See y'all soon.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay.